Good morning and welcome. You're listening live to Heart-to-Heart, a program which aims to help you understand and to become your loving self. I'm Dr. Mitra Rashidian. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist and a certified sexologist. I'm in full-time private practice in beautiful Encino, California, along with my wonderful and amazing colleague and best friend, Dr. Robert Jaffe, who's not going to be here today. Yes, I know. He just had to take care of something urgently. Everything's fine, but he just couldn't make it. And we do support each other in any way that we can. So if he can make it, I'm here. If I can make it, he's here. Of course, I'm always here. And there have been a few occasions where he hasn't been here. But then again, that's the nature of the game and that's the nature of friendship. And we do help each other through the times that are needed to be considered, important and take care of family members, take care of, situations that they require our full attention at the moment. So I'm here, and hopefully you're going to enjoy the program just listening to me. But we're not going to forget about Dr. Robert. I'm going to mention his name and what would have he, say about the topic in hand. And one thing that he usually likes to say at the beginning of the program is that we are born into the world as our loving, authentic, true self, which is open, calm, curious, emotionally available, connected, honest, confident, compassionate, sexual, and trusting. And that's indeed the nature of who we are upon birth. And none of us are excluded from this dynamic. So it's just we want to know that what happens across the different stage of life where we lose track of all of that, and that's what this program is all about. So this is Heart to Heart program, KMET at 1490 AM ABC News Radio. I'd like to encourage you to please call us. This program belongs to you, and we are here to help you with some of the life challenges. And if you feel like this program can benefit somebody else that you know of, please refer them to listen to us. And also, we want you to call us. So for today, if you are the fourth caller, we are offering you a 15-minute free consultation offline, either with myself or with Dr. Robert, and hope you can benefit from that. Our phone number here live is 951-922-3532. That number again is 951-922-3532. You can also visit us at YouTube at heart-2-heart.online/YouTube. And pretty soon we are going to be live on Facebook. Yes, so you can see us there. And then we take it, yeah, we're just expanding, and we're doing our very best to meet the needs and be available in any possible way that we can. So the topics, and of course, before that, also I want to thank you for giving us your 9 to 10 o'clock on Fridays. We know that you have a busy life, and we are honored that you are joining us here. So the topic that Dr. Robert would usually talk about on Fridays is how addictions, trauma, codependency impacts our relationships. And we know that there are so many family members out there that they go through these challenging processes. Some even with more of a family member, some with one family member. But regardless, it doesn't matter how many are involved, as long as we have one that is a devastating condition, and we want to be able to take care of that. So let's see again, and I like to focus on codependency because it pretty much includes many other aspects that Dr. Robert would talk about. And it all begins codependency. We know per research, and I am using his book, which is he likes to talk about Dr. Charles Whitfield. His codependence book is pretty much a Bible here for most clinicians, and I'm going to use that book to go over some aspect of codependency. Basically, we grew up in an unhealthy family of origin and in an unhealthy society. And one may say, well, how's that? My parents did their best, my caregivers, did their best. And that's absolutely correct. But all of us, as parents and as children, we have our own upbringing challenges when we were children as well. So let's see how those creates another unhealthy family and society. So in that setting that is presumed to be unhealthy, we do not get our healthy human needs met, including the ability to be real. So what is real? Real means, the qualities that Dr. Roberts says at the beginning of the program, right? So those are our real self. Those are our authentic true self. And the one that you say we are loving, authentically, we are open, we are calm, we are curious, emotionally available, confident, sexual, trusting. Those are who we are. Those are our real self, right? But when we grow up in an unhealthy family, that reality part of us is kind of goes on the hiding, For us to, unfolding of this process, at least two major incidents later become, kind of issues, So what are two factors happens when we lose our authentic true self? One is we are becoming fearful about being abandoned, and then we develop toxic shame. So what is being abandoned in our true self? So there is a model that I'm looking, and then this is the iceberg model. And I wish I could show that to you, but I'm happy to explain that to you. So in the iceberg model, which is pretty much, a Freudian concept, it's about relationship of adult-child, wounding, codependent, and various disorder. So if you consider an iceberg, right? An iceberg that there is a tip of the ice, and then the majority of that iceberg is hidden under the water. And usually the places that they have iceberg, that water is kind of thick and dark, so we're not able to just see that with the naked eye, but we can see the shiny, beautiful tip of the ice, right? So at the very bottom of that iceberg, if we actually, dive in with the special equipment and go down there to an iceberg, when we get to the bottom of that, that's where everything begins, in our childhood. So that's the ground zero for us. And then the unhealthy family of origin is way at the bottom. And then also the unhealthy society, because whose society? Society is a combination of who we are living together in a group form, right? So at the bottom of that, when we have, when we grow up in a family that they are unhealthy themselves, we develop fear of abandonment, and that leads to toxic shame, and then we find other traumas. And then what we become ultimately, we become this adult child that we have so much wounding going on in our mind. And then because of that fear of abandonment, we forget about self-care. We forget about self-love because we just want to belong to, right? And then we feel this chronic emptiness, and then try to fill up the emptiness from outside. We look at outside for happiness. We look at outside for success. And then that's how we primarily become, a codependent, which I'm going to explain to you more. We see because of all those traumas and wounding that we experienced during our childhood, well, everybody wants to feel good. Everybody wants to feel well, right? So what happens? To do that, we're looking for what gives us pleasure immediately and instantly, instant gratification. it becomes, a part of us that we really want to know about. We want to experience this. Who wants to be in an unhappy, mood? Who wants to feel depression every day? Who wants to feel anxious every day? Who wants to be fearful? Who wants to, have the, anxiety and the stress over what's going to happen to my relationship? What's going to happen to my job, right? So people, therefore, because of that, so you can see everything is based on fear of being abandoned, right? I could lose my relationship, I could lose my job, I could lose my friendship, I could lose my house, I could lose my car, I could lose many things. So, and that becomes painful. That's a painful lifestyle. Therefore, looking for instant gratification becomes a way of surviving, right? So what are the instant gratification? For example, eating disorders is one of them. Food is always has been a source of pleasure and a source of surviving. So what could be better than that, right? Have you, noticed that there are people that, it's 10 o'clock at night, they already had a full, course of dinner. They already had everything that they needed to eat. But at the end of the night, at about 10 o'clock, they get bored. And what they do, they just get up and go and they open the refrigerator and they look inside, right? And they're looking for something. They don't know what they're looking, but they're looking for something that is fast, that is tasty, that is quick. And above all, it is really gives them the pleasure that they want, right? Nobody's going to reach out for vegetable and cucumbers and things of that magnitude. But people are looking for ice cream. People are looking for cake, for pastry, for something, bread, and something that gives them or becomes comfort food, even if it's a bite or so, which usually people don't stop at a bite or so. So that's why we see that people who have that habit, they usually are overweight. They usually have other, chronic illnesses such as diabetic type 2, heart disease. And then later on, they have, old age diseases and illnesses. So we see that, but the minute they have that, bite of something, right, it's like, they cool down, they become comfortable. However, unfortunately, as we know, that's very much temporary. So when it is temporary, it repeats itself in variety of forms, and then it just, food addiction starts, right? So food, a source of pleasure and a source of surviving, becomes one of the ways that a codependent person can use in order to kind of, give themselves some relief and comfort from internal emotional pain. And, before I go to the next one, I'm going to continue with the same thing. So the other parts are, different forms of addictions, right? So there are addictions and there are compulsions, and they are, of course, different forms of chemical dependency. And so let's talk about some of them, after our break. And don't forget to call us, 951-922-3532. See you in a few minutes. Welcome back from our commercial break. This is Heart-to-Heart program at KMET 1490 AM, ABC News Radio. If for those of you just tuning in, our discussion for this segment is codependency, addictions, trauma impacting our relationship. Dr. Robert is absent today. I'm trying to cover up for him, and we are missing him. I know that. And I hope that you enjoyed this program, just listening to me, one person today. And then I would like to encourage you to please, call us, ask your question, 951-922-3532. If you are the fourth caller today, you're going to receive a 15-minute free consultation offline with myself or with Dr. Jaffe, with whichever you choose. And then, please share this program with those that you believe they may benefit from this program. And then you can also visit us at our YouTube. And we thank you for sharing your hour with us. So before the break, I started talking about one aspect of codependency, which is fear of abandonment and toxic shame. So you may ask, why would anybody want to abandon me as a child? Right? I mean, that's a big umbrella question. Why would I be abandoned? What have I done? I haven't done anything, right? So why would I be abandoned? And then, but the first thing, because, we love our parents and we don't want to straightforward ask them that question. And if we even don't know if we can ask such a question, it may not occur to most of us, right? So the first thing that we say, oh, I could be abandoned. I feel I'm abandoned because I must not be good enough. And my goodness, that feeling of I must not be good enough. It's such a, fundamental aspect of developing, negative emotions that could last a lifetime, right? So this constant abandonment of our true self, because then again, because I'm not good enough, that's our true self that is not good enough, right? That combined with the projected inadequacies and other, poisonous forms of that parents, use to raise us, peers and others in society, that's how that generates toxic shame. So shame of the fact that I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough, and that kind of echoes in every areas of our life. Right? We want to get a job. We don't know if I'm good enough. We want to do a presentation and we shake before of that because we don't know if we are going to deliver a good topic or a good conversation or a good speech, right? We have a brilliant idea that we want to share it with our boss and colleagues during conference time, but we think, oh, well, it's just my opinion. Nobody will care for it. And then we see suddenly somebody else comes with something not even close to our brilliant idea and presents it, and then he or she gets the job. So these are just some of it. And, because of the continued and overwhelming pain from the abandonment, toxic shame, and other traumatic events, our true self again goes into more hiding. So the more we feel we are not good enough, the more that authenticity, that who we actually are, with all those wonderful qualities, it goes more and more and more in hiding, deep within the unconscious part of, our psyche. And that's the very bottom part of that iceberg that I talk about, in the beginning of the program, in the previous section of the program. And then, and this is how develops and continues. So feeling I'm not good enough, so I have to do many things so that I am considered good enough, such as giving in, such as forget about my ideas, such as just accepting whatever comes to me and accepting any behavior and accepting whatever, take care of people. The minute somebody makes a request, all I have to say is yes, I'll take care of it, or never be able to say no to something that even if it is unpleasant. We just keep saying, okay, yes, dear, okay, yes, mom, yes, dad, yes, boss, yes, friend, whatever. So, and then we never get a chance to pay attention to our own needs, right? But the fact that saying yes keeps us connected, or at least we believe it is keeping us connected, we're happy with just that. Right? Because somebody finds me good enough, even if it is for that assignment, right? So while as children, we experience many feelings state, a predominant one becomes emptiness. If I'm not good enough, am I going to have a good feelings about myself? It seems that, no matter what one experience, kind of walking away from it, it's kind of becomes difficult. And that emptiness, that I'm not good enough, is always in the background of everything that we do, always a feeling of emptiness, which causes aches, and, we cry about it. Sometimes have you seen that, we really don't have anything in particular to be sad about or talk about, but we just become so tearful. We can just look at a sad movie and we start crying, and then we wonder, why am I crying over this commercial? Why am I crying over this this sad movie? So that's how we try to fill the emptiness from the outside, right? And so we set out, a long journey of trying to fill the emptiness. And at the same time, the false or the codependent self has come forward to try to run our life, right? And these are some of the examples that's how we do it. We let that codependent, we let that the need to belong to, we let the need that, I must feel good enough, kind of pushes us to look forward for situation that gives us, a little bit of a relief. So this combination of the child in hiding, and that's, we all have that child within us, and the false selves trying to run our life and fill our emptiness from the outside, it is the fundamental, the foundation, the baseline, the ground zero of how we become a codependent. So I'm not good enough. I feel empty. I need to belong. I have toxic shame. And how am I going to take care of that? So I'm just going to say, be cooperative, be open, be in acceptance of whatever comes to me. Just I even will hide my actuality, my true self, so that nobody can, say that, oh, there is a problem with you, right? So because if my true self is a problem, then I don't need to show that. So that goes in hiding. And all the while our true self is trying, often, desperately, to come out of hiding, to connect, experience, express, create, celebrate, and to be. So because, our true self, we can push it back, but we cannot destroy it. How can we destroy ourselves? So ourself is that true self part of us. Yes, it goes in hiding. We push it back. We try to magnify our false self, right? Because we are operating from that perspective in order to belong to. But the reality is that true self also grows with us. It's a part of us and is constantly reminding us that, hey, I'm here. Hey, don't forget about me. I'm here. I'm your real you. But then again, because of that toxic shame of ourself, of who we are, again, we push it back, but then again, it shows up. So you can see that there is a conflict, there is a constant struggle between who we really are and who we want to become in order to belong to. So that there is that struggle there. And the tension, it causes, what I can call it a human condition, right? It's a condition. We're fighting with ourselves and what we believe we need to be, right? So we may attempt to fill our emptiness from the outside in a, numerous way, and then with all sorts of people, places, things, behaviors, and experiences, which these may result in experiencing any of the several possible painful consequences. And some of them are including depression, anxiety, and related disorders, chemical dependency, eating disorders, relationship addictions and problem, stress-related disorders, and compulsion. So yeah, nothing is without consequences, in particular when we're trying to push back our authenticity, right? So just which one or more of these we get depends in large, basically in large part on our, hereditary makeup. I mean, what's our background, our environment, and other factors. So how my parents have lived their lives, that's part of my heritage. How my grandparents have lived their life is part of me. how my cousins, my siblings, my aunts and uncles, are living their lives. It becomes part of me. What kind of a neighborhood I'm living in, it becomes part of me, right? So these are all factors and usually people who are in the same environment, they have the same approach to everybody. So therefore, we are just kind of exposed to an unhealthy environment, and this is what an unhealthy environment is. So while codependence is not the single cause of any of these disorders that we just talked about or conditions, it is usually a major, factor that causes these factors, and then we just become, kind of attached to it. And thus, it is important to eventually heal the codependence as a beginning part of a total treatment of whatever disorder one may have, the knowingly know it or unknowingly experiencing that. And we know that repeated and frustrated attempts to fill our emptiness from the outside may eventually teach us that the cause of our emptiness is due to only two closely related factors. Our true self is in hiding and is not experientially connected to God. Yes, so we lose our sense of spirituality because, when we are not connected to ourselves, as human beings, we cannot just be by ourselves. We are social creatures, right? And then spirituality is a part of us. But for as long as we're looking at external factors in order to satisfy, what we believe we need in order to survive, we lose the touch with our spirituality. We lose the touch with our true self. And that true self of us is what God gave us. And how can we even, begin to think, I can let go of who I am, what God gave me, and I want to become who I'm supposed to be in order to belong to. So you can see the need to belong to. And because we are social creatures, because we cannot survive on our own, ultimately, how strong that is, how powerful that is, that makes us forget about who we are, and even we lose the touch of connection with God, with our spirituality. That's how painful, that's how big, that's how deep codependency is. So they are another way to describe, key events and concepts, in developing of the genesis of codependence, and its recovery is basically called, it's a process which I'm going to go and introduce the other model to you, right? So let's see. The other model is it's a curve. They call it curve of adult child codependent wounding and recovery, right? So this curve is really beautiful. Imagine a horseshoe, right? So it's a kind of a U shape, right? At one part, at the very tip of the part, so we are born into a family and society where its healthy needs are not met. And then here we have this innocent child of God, that beginning to forget his or her identity due to fear of abandonment, right? Then we get to the, internalizing parents and others' projected inadequacy. So what that means whatever my parents' attitudes, beliefs, and perceptions are, I'm going to make those my own because, they're coming from my parents. How could my parents be wrong? Right? My parents are the God of my life, and I need to do just about everything to connect to them, even take their false beliefs, even take their, their false selfhood, even take their low self-esteem, even take their negative beliefs and negative emotions and make them mine because they are coming from my parents. And therefore, invalidation and repression of inner life starts. That means I'm not good enough unless I become who my parents are. And then I'm going to start to feel, that toxic shame and other traumas because I feel I'm not good enough. Okay. So, I mean, we already, covered those, and that was, some other form of looking at it. And then, we kind of search and we follow the parents, we idealize them in order to survive. And then we forget about what are our needs and how they have been neglected, because we all have a specific needs. We are all individual creatures. We are all individual human beings. None of us are alike, even as much as we want to believe that we are not. We each have a special needs. We each have a special wants and desires. But because we are going to be living and we have made a contract with ourselves, emotional contract, that I am going to live as my full self so I can stay belong to my parents or my caregiver, I'm going to neglect what I want. I'm going to put them aside for now. I'm not going to care for them because those are the ones that they are making me not good enough. Isn't that interesting? So, as we are getting close to our commercial break, and when we come back, I'm going to review the rest of this discussion. And please don't forget to call us 951-922-3532, and see you shortly after our commercial break. Welcome back from our commercial break. This is Heart-to-Heart program. Dr. Mitra and Dr. Robert here. Dr. Robert is absent actually today, but he's going to be joining us next week. And I'm here and Heart-to-Heart at KMET 1490 AM ABC News Radio. And our discussion today is how we become codependent. And please call us 951-922-3532. You can also visit us at our Facebook, Heart-2-Heart online/YouTube. And that we thank you for joining us every Friday and every Thursday. I have a program on Thursday at 3 p.m. where we talk about human sexuality and how that sexuality impacts our relationships. So we go over a variety of sexual challenges, difficulties. And we are going to be talking about what we know as what is known as dysfunction, or how social system impacts our sexuality. So there is a lot going on in that 1 hour, and every week we talk about an aspect of it. And on Fridays we talk about relationship, codependency, trauma, and addictions, and how those aspects are controlling our lives, right? So please introduce the program to those that you think they can benefit from this, and we appreciate your contribution. Thank you. So going back to our program, let's say I have a question here that says, how the wounding deepens, right? So how do we get that toxic shame? Why we have it? Basically, when we talk about operating out of fear and shame, means that if we are afraid, important people will leave us. And who are the important people? Our parents, our siblings, people that they love us, our husband, our wives, right? We learn to tolerate their inappropriate behavior to such an extent that we develop the condition associated with the core issues of high tolerance for inappropriate behavior. That means no matter what comes to us, we're just going to take it, right? Oh, I can deal with this. Oh, tomorrow's going to be better. Oh, I can deal with this one. Tomorrow's going to be better. And the cycle continues. And the more we give in, the more inappropriate behavior comes to us, and the more we become stronger into tolerating, right? And then with that also, we are pushing, our true self back and back and back and further and deeper in hiding, right? And then, during these times, we have likely experienced multiple and repeated episodes of age, regression, suddenly feeling small and helpless with experiencing any kind and degrees of trauma. These repeated age, regression tend to reinforce our fear, shame, and confusion, right? So we talked about, how we idealize our parents, and then our true self goes into, hiding. And then the next thing that happens is denial of internal and external reality so that we can survive. So this is the very initial part where our addictive attitude starts to develop, right? When we start to neglect our own needs because we want to belong to, because we want to survive, because we don't want to be abandoned. Imagine how much pain that develops inside of us, right? Pushing back or to the deeper part, our true self. It's a painful process, but we are used to do that. We do that all the time. And then we deny the pain, and then we deny internal and external reality. Those are the painful issues because we want to survive. And then we start to struggle with our true self because we don't want that. We believe that that's the toxic part of us. We believe that's the no good part of us. And that's the biggest trauma that happens in our lives, right? And then to continue to survive, we increase tolerance of, and then we learn how to numb the emotional pain, right? And then what we do in the outside, we start to do people pleasing, and we develop a high tolerance for inappropriate, behavior. So I'd like to say something about emotional pain here. Emotional pain are negative feelings that we have about ourselves, right? Those emotional pains, unfortunately, they have only 3 places to go to, right? And then nobody is, there is no exception. So anybody who experiences emotional pain, they experience at least one form of how this emotional pain is going to impact them, right? To say the least. So negative emotions, okay, the one of the places that they go inside our bodies. How? We feel sick all the time. We feel tired. We feel exhausted. We don't feel well. We get sick so easily, right? Have you seen some people, they usually, complain of abdominal pain. They usually complain of muscle pain, or they feel tired, they feel fatigue, and they're just not a happy person. So this is how, and then they get variety of illnesses out of nowhere, okay? So that's one way that negative emotion impact us. The other way that negative emotions impact us, or emotional pain impact us, is by doing self-sabotaging behavior. So we know that all kinds of addictions, we know that eating disorders, and we know that, not sleeping well, right? Not taking care of ourselves, those are all self-sabotaging behaviors. Or making reckless decisions, or making things, doing things that they only give us immediate pleasure, right? And then that immediate pleasure doesn't last, of course, for long. Have you seen somebody suddenly decide to drive 120 miles on the freeway because they get that, a rush of good feelings suddenly, and then it gives them a relief of about 5 minutes so that they don't feel those emotional pain. But of course, we know the consequences. We know the consequences of a variety of addictions that we are experiencing. And then the third way that we experience emotional pain or negative emotion is we project on people, right? Have you seen a husband going to work and had a bad day at work and comes home and out of nowhere lashes at a family member, in particular at wife? Have you seen that, couples, they just get up in the morning and they just start being so grumpy and not want to talk to each other, and they bring up, old problems, or they just complain, or they just nag, or they just are not kind with their children, right? So, or, in particular, we see that among couples that they say, oh, you always say that, or you always do that, you're always negative, you're always. So there is a generalization, there is over exaggeration of how we sort of dump our own negative emotions onto somebody else, and then we call them, it's their fault. Everything that happens is their fault. If a wife wouldn't aggravate the husband wouldn't beat her up. We see that in domestic violence in particular. So we see that not wanting to take responsibility for one's negative emotion calls for projection. That means we sort of release our negative emotions and we make somebody else to take it, and we make them responsible for whatever went wrong. And usually, we need another codependent person there in order to accept the responsibility for our emotional pain. So you see how we also attract each other in that way. Isn't that, amazing that how human mind works, right? So during this process to do all of that, if we feel the emotional pain, we're not going to be able to be a codependent. So we learn how to, feel. We kind of become unable to feel, and we are going to be unable to grieve, right? And then we also have any kind of a boundaries, because we don't have boundaries for ourselves. Anybody can walk all over us and tell us what to do, and we will do it, right? And then so let's see. And then of course all of these changes, all of these factors sort of reinforces fear, toxic shame, and confusion, right? At some point, however, when our addiction and compulsion and other disorders begins, right, we see that, there is a need to control, right, more disorders and more pains, because they just become worse and worse and worse. So somehow we realize that we are in pain, but still, we're not able to stop it. We're not able to do anything about it. And we just continue and continue with that. And then this is how we feel that we are out of control. And then other factor happens. It just life becomes chaotic. We feel powerless, but miraculously we continue with that lifestyle. And guess what? Some of it is because we don't know any other way. We're so used to be a codependent. We are used to basically, forget about who we are, forget about ourselves, forget about the, to look at our abilities and everything, because we found them to be useless. If they were useful, I would be good enough. But I'm not good enough because I don't have any useful, qualities in me. Right, and therefore this is the place that we call it grand, a stage zero condition, or sort of a ground zero. This is where we hit the bottom of our codependency, where we completely lose the awareness of who I am, what are my qualities, what are my abilities, how good I am. And I truly agree with every cell in my body that I am not good enough, that I'm out of control, that all my life is about is make people see me, believe me, and, accept me, and at all costs, and I will do just about anything just to stay in a relationship. So we see that when that happens, and that, we get to that stage in adulthood, and we just put up with anything in our relationship, as long as, I have a roof on my head, it doesn't matter what he says or what she says. As long as I have food on the table, as long as he pays rent, as long as, I'm safe, I'm not out in the street, I'm just going to do whatever it takes to make him happy, to make her happy, right? And eventually, we get to a point that there is no me existing. There is no true me existing. However, I have a strong sense of false self, and that's what I'm going to, keep alive, and this is how I'm going to operate. However, we see that underneath of that, in order to ease the pain, we get into a variety of addictions or, immediate pleasure concepts, right? So we, conditions that they are famous at this point, or we have received reports of it, and also science shows that, are stress, addictions, compulsions, eating disorders, mental disorders, blocked grief, or I can call it depression, fear, which is basically causes anxiety and panic, relationship addictions, or advanced codependence, because codependency is a disease of false self. It's a disease of looking elsewhere for happiness, right? And of course, physical, illnesses. So that's the very bottom, right? That's the very bottom. And then you say, well, how can I get out of codependency, right? Because there must be a way, and a person won't be able to get out of codependency until they truly become frustrated with the repeated crisis, and then they realize that this toxic shame is actually they get to the point of almost killing them, right, emotionally. And then when there is no way out of it, and they see that with every cell in their body, they've done everything possible humanly so that they can make it happen, and it's not happening. Some lucky people, they realize that, and they say enough is enough, right? It's time to do something about it, right? And then the sooner, of course, the better. The sooner the better that one person can do that. Usually, we see people, they end up, with variety of other illnesses are going to be, among the people who want to get out of codependency. So our program is about to end, and I'm happy to continue with this discussion next week, but please call us 951-922-3532. We love to hear from you. This program belongs to us. And then we thank you for joining us today. Don't forget to join us Thursday at 3 p.m. and next Friday at 9 a.m. And until then, all you need is love. Have a blessing weekend.